Welcome very much, everybody here. This is a cross America discussion we're having. Liberals here in California talking with conservatives or whatever you want to call it, people who are not flaming California liberals, about the future of California. The reason we're doing this is that, the Calexit movement's always been progressive, but we've also said that the reason that we want to split is that we don't think that it works with being part of conservatives in America. But the way to do that is a peaceful national divorce. That means dialogue. That means negotiation. That means coordination. That means voting. And one thing I've always argued with fellow progressives and liberals is how are you supposed to have a peaceful independence movement where you need the votes of conservatives if you're not even willing to talk to them? Never really got a good answer from any of the other progressives. Just kind of it gets real silent and quiet. And I go, so you're for peaceful independence, but you're not going to talk to the people who you need the votes from. Sounds like you're not for peaceful independence. But hey, I couldn't say that they just got real quiet and didn't answer the questions. Anyways, we have a special guest for you today. We have Keith Bissett. That's his information at the bottom. You can look him up at Bissett Keith. He's the host of Rebel Civics on Unsafe Space. That's a play off Safe Spaces, which every California will know. It's an unsafe space. It's kind of tongue in cheek. Also with us, as always, is Rabbi Stephen Axelman, Vice President here at Calexit, and our contact to the East Coast and other conservatives. How are you both doing this morning?
Doing well.
Your mic is off, Rabbi. I unmuted it. You have to unmute yourself, Rabbi.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Got to mention Americans United for Peaceful Separation.
Yes.
That's what keeps us together to peacefully separate.
Yep. Americans United for Peaceful Separation.
AmericansUPS.com. And we're trying to, as you know, bring the groups together to talk like you do so well.
And that's the whole point is we need to have dialogue. We need to come together. One of the things that I love is that whenever you see critics in the newspaper talking about national divorce, they go, national divorce could never happen. We're so politically divided, we could never come together to agree to split. And I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Whenever I talk to conservatives, they're going, it's because I don't agree with you that I would agree to that one decision. So media is constantly misrepresenting that and saying that what we're doing right now can't happen, right? Like I can't even have a conversation with you. You can't have a conversation with me. So we can never have a peaceful national divorce. That's why I like the conversations, because it proves the media BS garbage that they're putting out there. As I've talked to many conservatives, I go, have any of these liberal newspapers that said how you conservatives feel ever actually interviewed any of you conservatives? And the answer is always no. That liberal news just says what they think is the right thing and they project what you think, and we move from there. Anyways, enough of that. We're going to have a discussion today about New California versus Calexit. What is the better path for the future of California? But with us is our special guest, Keith. Please introduce yourself, sir. Awesome background. Love the history behind that.
All right. Well, thanks. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored. And I will note it was Stephen and the Americans United for Peaceful Separation that put you, Marcus, and I together. So the only thing I've known about Calexit is I watched the roundtable at the Free State Project's Pork Fest in New Hampshire last summer that you were on by Zoom with Daniel Miller and Stephen and Alu. Which is my first contact into that. So
it was awesome.
Yeah, that's I've gone to that with my girlfriend the last 2 years, and we've already got our tickets and our campsite for next year. I live in Florida. The conversation they have at the Free State Project's Freedom Festival often starts with, "When are you moving to New Hampshire?" So I always have to address that. So I'm staying in Florida for now. I'm a Flexit guy, but I love what's going on in New Hampshire. And if they leave first, maybe I'll establish a residency there. But I'd probably keep my Florida condo for various reasons. Anyway, as you said, I'm the host of a show called Rebel Civics on the Unsafe Space group, which is a collection of Shows. There's about 6 shows there. There's a website with articles and references. There's Substack, sort of thing. A lot of that. So that's what Unsafe Space is. My show is called Rebel Civics. It's a civic show, a little bit tongue-in-cheek name, but I'm using the definition of rebel as someone who basically does what they think is the correct thing to do, regardless of public opinion, or that's basically what the rebel. It's not really a direct reference to any particular rebel. Um, as I said, I'm a Florida resident. I've been recently learning and getting involved in the Flexit process. I'm now an admin on the Flexit Facebook page, which I'm building up into be a conversation among Florida people about leaving the union, and various discussions and debates and a few arguments about pros and cons and the different versions of it. So I've been working to build that up, and it's been going pretty well the last few weeks. So Alu's been helping with that. Alu Axelman, the Liberty Block. One other thing I want to mention before I finish my long bio. It's probably way longer than you intended. I'm not a conservative. I've never identified myself as a conservative. I think there are a subset. I don't have statistics, but there is a subset of conservatives who believe what you just said. They basically consider, the best I can tell, the union in its current form, right? Whatever it happens to be today, in its current form, is sacred. Like, you can't change that, and to go against that is like saying you hate Jesus to some of those people. That's my interpretation of it, my opinion. So anyway, I'm not a conservative, although I hold a lot of conservative values. I'm not a liberal. I hold a lot of liberal values. I'm sort of a small L libertarian, but I've never been part of that party. I've never been a member of any political party ever in my life, and I probably won't ever. I'm not sure parties are the answer. Certainly outside of state, federally, the parties are not the answer. I think that includes the LP, though I might send them some money after this latest round, and if Dave Smith wins the nomination, I might bother to vote. If it's not raining, I can't take my scooter. All right, that's all I'll say.
Can I interject 1 second, Keith?
Sure.
I used to be much more conservative. I am much more libertarian. And I think one of the defining lines between them is the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you want me to comment on that, I might just send
Can
you
we
a
not
link
Can we
to a
not go off
show.
on a tangent?
I'll do 30 seconds and how it's related to secession. I did a show on it, why I don't say anything in the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll just leave it there, because I'm not pledging allegiance to a flag or to a nation or.
I mean, my biggest beef with it is the indivisible. When you speak about conservatives not being on board with peaceful separation, you're indoctrinated for your entire life with that indivisible word.
I'll send you my link to that. So
Yeah,
yes,
great.
I agree. It's not indivisible. I mean, it was written by Francis Bellamy, who was a intense socialist, and it's to move the country further into socialism and indoctrinate children. I don't know if you've seen the old pictures. Here's the salute, right? That's the salute the kids did. And then when the World War II started, when Hitler got to power, they said, we better change it to this one. But anyway, it's basically following the German school system. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a tangent, Marcus. But
We're
I
getting
don't
a little bit
say
off,
it.
guys. Sorry, we're getting a little bit off in the left field. I do want to say that if I had $1 for every time we had I'll say non-California liberal say I'm not a conservative. To Californians, you're a conservative. So let's just get that out of the way. You don't have to agree. I've had this conversation with 5,000. I'm not a conservative. I'm a Republican. I'm not a Republican. I'm a libertarian. I'm not a libertarian. I'm a neo-fascist. Over here in California, we don't care. Y'all the same.
Okay.
So let me just, not to be mean or anything, but every time I'm like, I'm this description of conservatism that no one in California understands. I'm not trying to be mean, but just for Californians, for the sake of this point, like, you don't share a radical transgendered bathrooms agenda. So whatever you want to call that.
I,
Not
I, I get it. All I'll request is you wait until you talk to me for an hour and then reevaluate that. I think you'll find out I am not a conservative, even by California standards. For
I'm
most
telling you right
Californians.
now, looking at your website, no one in California is going to agree to that. So no offense.
Okay.
No, I'm not
Okay.
telling you, I'm
All
not
right.
saying you
That's
have to agree. I'm just saying the way things are here.
Marcus,
uh,
Marcus, sorry for
Yes.
interjecting again. We're happy when you disagree. That's why we want to get a peaceful divorce.
Oh, yeah. So there you
But
go.
that's the point, is we don't agree on everything,
So
but we
let's,
want to be
no.
friends.
It's just interesting. It's all information. So no, I don't mind this sort of thing. It's actually more fun if we agreed on everything. There would be no need to have a show. We'd
that's
just be
fair.
talking in an echo chamber.
That's fair.
It's the last thing I
Uh,
want. So yeah, go ahead, do your show. I'm a guest.
well, Keith, today we talked about, um, sorry, I was up way late last night. I shouldn't have been. Um, we talked about New California versus Calexit and what would be the best future for California. Um, Tell me your understanding of the topic of New California and what they're about and why you thought that might be an interesting idea or possibly a good idea for California. In your words, sir.
Okay. First, I'll start with I encountered the concept of New California about 2 weeks ago from either Stephen here or Alu, the Liberty Block, and then they brought you into the email chains you're having, and of course I pretty much immediately pointed out West Virginia was never a legal member of the union because of the
Hey,
process of how it was accomplished. So my first reaction to that, um, and we should probably summarize. I don't, I'm a newbie here, so I'll do a real short summary. I read the about section of the website this morning. So is that enough? And I have it right here. I think I can share it. Right?
yeah,
It might
please
be
share it. Just
easier.
because if I do it, then they're going to go, well, that was
Okay.
coming from a liberal progressive and his, angled perspective. So how do you view it?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to talk for a minute, Stephen, while I pop this up? Um,
Okay,
so I can go
so
ahead.
basically New California is the idea to split California into two states. There you go.
Okay.
And
That's sharing now.
yeah, it's sharing now. We can see it on the screen. So that's the New California website. New California. Their plan is to split California up into two states, or at least they want to leave California and form a new state, we should say. And they're primarily looking at the interior of California, not the coast. They're suggesting that the coast is all liberal and it can go do whatever it wants. And then this interior conservative, whatever the right phrase is, part will become a new state following the West Virginia model of how Abraham Lincoln took Virginia and then split it up into West Virginia and Virginia. That's my understanding of what they're doing.
Yeah, I think I saw that. So again, for people that know a lot about this, I'm looking at this for somebody who just saw it. So I have a couple notes here. Okay, take 2 minutes, say 3 minutes. Asking
Yeah.
questions will take longer. So the need. So I just read this. The need for New California. Um, sure, the Declaration of Independence. I'm not familiar with the Alta California Declaration in detail, but I know what it is. And also the Sonoma one, same thing. It was basically California declaring itself independent for good reasons in all three of those cases. Or actually, two of the cases in California. The other one was California was an independent nation, if you want to call that, or state, as the founders would use, and they petitioned to join the United States as first a territory, is my understanding, but then as a state, and it was accepted. That's actually the process in the Constitution that Congress is supposed to follow. So anyway, that need, I get that one, sure. They had some problems with government, and so they became independent, and then they joined a union. I fully support the idea of self-governance and people joining a union if they want. The authority to act, this one I just say is okay. But yeah, I'm all right with this. Article 4, Section 3 is interesting. New states may be admitted by the Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state. So that means states are not allowed to just split up at will under the
Right.
Constitution, right? Under the
Right.
Constitution. Nor
Which
shall, go ahead.
it just means that their idea can't happen. So that section, Article 4,
Hmm.
Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution is them admitting that they can't do this and that it's
Under the
legally dubious.
under the Constitution.
Yeah.
With a, I don't know, would you consider it as a practical matter? Because they do call it a precedent later, but because
Well,
it actually has been done. And I was in West Virginia this fall. It is a place, right?
yeah.
It's a state.
But if we look at the legality of it, there's a lot of constitutional scholars who, if you just type in West Virginia is unconstitutional, you'll see legal and constitutional scholars from around America over the last century who are going, maybe Lincoln wasn't right. And what they're pointing out was that section in the Constitution: the states may be admitted by Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor two or more states or parts of states without the consents of the legislatures of the states concerned. Virginia never agreed to be split, which means, according to the Constitution, West Virginia is illegal and unconstitutional. And there are today many constitutional scholars who think that it's legally dubious.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I would use. I don't normally use the term constitutional scholar for myself, but I happen to be able to read English. So and I have the book. It takes about an hour to read this, and so I pulled it out and I highlighted this section. It's not that long, people. If you've had like certainly a 10th or 12th grade education, I think I could have read this at 6 and understand it. And I would say, as far as the scholar goes, I'm not really trying to dig on lawyers, but I didn't go to law school. I went to engineering school, and I did system engineering for a career. So yeah, I can read and write English fairly well, and I've argued over specs with the government. So anyway, it just says no new state shall be formed or erected without blah blah blah, without the consent of the legislatures of states concerned as well as Congress. So I don't know why scholars need to do more than say, yeah, that's true, man, read it. Like, am I a scholar for saying that? I don't understand the argument. It's clear. So I don't know why. It's great. Scholars are doing. That's what scholars do, right? The quote unquote elite academics. They probably all have JD degrees. But anyway, that's what it says. So a state that is voluntarily, or at least its ancestors voluntarily committed to the contract of being a member of the United States, is required to follow restrictions in this. That's the law. That's the highest law. The way that Virginia could have done it and should have done it, my opinion. As far as what the new California, they say Virginia tried to leave the Union. Like, that's not true. Virginia did leave the Union. Virginia seceded, became independent, and then joined another union called the CSA. Like, that's what happened.
Right.
And the majority of Virginia voted to do that. That's how it works. If you believe in the Declaration of Independence, I mean, Thomas Jefferson was actually from Virginia. Sure, he would say sure. And the Virginia Constitution has a clause, or the ratification documents have a clause that Virginia could leave if they're not happy. Like, that's in there. If that wasn't in there, Virginia might not have joined the Union. So sure, Virginia can lawfully leave. There's nothing in the Constitution that bars a state from leaving. And the Declaration reminds us of what this whole thing's based on. Plus, the Virginia ratifying documents include that. Might be in the Constitution too. I don't recall. So if Virginia did leave the United States, they seceded, they became independent. After they were independent, they joined another union called the Confederate States of America, CSA. Sure. So that's what happened. What West Virginia should have done, I'll try to sum this up, but what Virginia should have done, which would have met both the Constitution of this other nation, the United States, it would have met the Constitution of the CSA, and it would have met the Declaration of Independence. All they had to do is secede from the CSA, which includes seceding from Virginia, pick themselves a new constitution. They probably could have used the CSA Virginia one or the U.S. Virginia one. The CSA one's pretty close with a couple extra limitations that are mostly good. I'm not going to get into the slavery part, but because that's not the point here at all.
Yeah,
They
I
could have
want to
done
keep
that,
this
become
focused on the
independent.
topic. Yeah.
Yeah, this I consider on the topic. So but
Okay.
you're welcome to stop me. It is your show. You have to remind me that I'm not on my show, where I can rant as long as I want. They could have gone independent. I mean, it would have taken one meeting of their Congress, right, of their House and Senate. They declare themselves independent, send a declaration to the president and to the state of Virginia governor. They're leaving. They're now an independent state. Tell the world we're independent. Half hour later, they could petition Lincoln and the Congress to join the United States, and Lincoln could have said okay, and Congress would have voted, and they're in. They could have done it in one day. That's how they should have done. And
Sure.
if I chat with the new California people, that's what I would tell them. Why don't you just do that?
But
Then this whole argument is clean.
right,
I don't
but
know
you would.
if-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You
I
would
was gonna
agree with
finish
me
by
though.
saying that. Yeah, we got a little. I would finish that by saying that I don't know, but from a quick look at some of the stuff they're saying, they sound like they're more in the camp of what I would define as a large subset of the Republican conservative, maybe even Christian American base, that the United States is a sacred thing, and maybe they don't want to do it that way. It's a question for them. Why are they not doing it that way? They're close. They're kind of close in here to just doing it that way. So that's a question.
Let me interject because I think we're just to make sure we're on the same page. So you would agree that New California is saying, hey, we could become a new state because West Virginia became a new state. They're basing their idea off West Virginia. No. Okay.
I'm saying, yeah.
You're not?
I'll clarify that. I did not explain that clearly. As a practical matter, they say there's a precedent. That's true. There is a precedent. I don't consider a precedent that is unlawful or based on force as being a legal precedent or an ethical precedent.
Right.
But there is a precedent, and they may be able to use it. What, do
Right.
you think that they can't use that and get away with saying there's a precedent? Because West Virginia is a state. It was formed that way. And I was camping there, had a beautiful 4 days camping up in the mountains there this fall.
Sure.
It's a thing, right? It is a state. It's treated like a state. So that's a question. Maybe we
Right.
need a person from New California here to,
But
if you can
just
find
to-
one that could debate like this.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's,
But just to clarify, I think we're both agreed, though, that saying, hey, a state can just split off from another state because the president says so doesn't exactly align with what the Constitution says. Is that a fair summary?
yeah. I would phrase it that it
Okay.
directly violates the Constitution, and a president who allows that should be impeached and run out of office because he's violating his oath of office. Lincoln violated his oath of office. I'm being a little more clear.
Okay.
This is my.
Okay.
That's what I would say on Rebel Civics. I'll tell you that.
Fair enough. Let's go to another one, which is that if I'm not mistaken, if New California wants to become this new state, they have to get the rest of California's permission, right? They have to go because the Constitution says the state has to approve. So if New California wants to split off from California, they actually have to get California's votes.
To become a separate state without going through the secession process. 'Cause
Yes.
they're not seceding. They're
Right.
from their website, they don't even want to secede. They don't even
Right.
mention it in there.
Right.
In this section, let me make sure. Okay, I'm still, where they say the precedent. Yeah, this is where I got that from. The precedent was set in 1861 when West Virginia was split from the Confederate Virginia as Confederate tried to secede. I think I already reworded that, but the way to properly say that is a precedence was set when West Virginia left. Left is the best word. They left the state of Virginia, which was a member of the Confederate States of America, a different country, different nation, whatever you're going to call it, after Virginia seceded from the Union, became an independent nation, and then joined the Confederate States of America. That's actually what happened there. The process begins when a state's legislature first votes to split the state. I don't know that that's the beginning, but that's part of the process. They have to approve it.
Yeah, so we agree.
I agree on that part.
Okay.
And then they say, then the end here, both the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate must vote to pass a resolution in order to split the state. I wasn't actually sure about that one, which is why I read this little book today. It does say it has to have the consent of Congress. So it's both houses.
Okay.
So I don't know why they say that, but then they don't say you have to also have the permission of the state, which would be the full state of California. So the California legislature has to approve this as well as Congress.
Yep, we agree. That was the big point.
Marcus, if I could just point out the difference between New California and Calexit. New California recognizes the sovereignty of the United States federal government and wants their permission to do something. Calexit is saying, we don't want to be part of the whole thing. And in a sense, we don't really need your permission. It would be really nice, but we're sovereign. So it's a whole different outlook. And in a funny sort of sense, you have more right to secede because you're saying I'm not under your rules than you do to break up under their rules.
We are pushing for getting permission, but yes, we do believe California is sovereign and it was illegally taken. Yeah, absolutely, Rabbi. Great summary. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Backing up those points, I just wanted to point this out that if they have to get California's votes, it's never going to happen. So in 2014, there was a survey by KPCC that showed 62% of Californians were against splitting the state up. That was when Tim Draper proposed his original 6 states. In 2018, Survey USA surveyed Californians on Tim Draper's plan to split the state up into 3 states, and it was 75% said no. So what happens is there's been attempts to split California up from Tim Draper into 6 states and then 3 states. The amount of Californians opposing splitting California up the first time it was proposed was 2/3. Then the second time it was proposed, it went up from 62% to 75%. So the more it's proposed to split California up, the higher of percent of opposition is what happens, according to these 2 historical polls. I've tried to get people at New California to answer this question of, if you're going to get our votes, how are you going to get it when the last 2 polls show 2/3 of Californians are dead set against this? Haven't been able to get any of them to respond to these hard facts. Thoughts, feelings, guys?
I don't know why they wouldn't respond, but I'd be speculating. Is the person who wrote that website not the one that's speaking to you? Because from that website, you would think he would at least bring it up. That website brings up some things that raise questions, and a legitimate one is the one you just asked.
I appreciate that. I
I
actually got Paul, Paul, the leader of the movement, on the phone once, and I said, "Hey, would you like to debate?" And he goes, "No, I don't think so," and then hung up. So whatever that means, I'm open to discuss with them. But I literally talked to Paul, literally asked for a discussion, and he literally turned it down. But that's why I want to have a discussion with you guys, because I think it's an important discussion. And I think that in a democracy, people should be willing to discuss ideas with each other. We can all agree on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, I want to live. We don't have to just agree on, I could care less what you guys want to do with bathrooms. Like, that's not important to me. You can limit your toilets to the federally mandated water limit or whatever. Like, that's fine. That's the whole idea of the state sovereignty. I mean, if you even want any government to decide something like that. That's my facetious joke on that. But it's actually true, right? Which is the best kind of sarcasm. Anyway, I don't know. Well, since Paul lives in California, so based on your definition, he would consider me a conservative. So,
sorry,
talk to me. Maybe. Oh no, I'm fine. I don't care.
Sorry,
me, I've been called conservative. I'll say I was fired from Convention Estates after 2 years. because I'm not a conservative or a Christian. So yeah, I mean, Convention of States doesn't think I'm a conservative, and or Christian was the primary reason, but I'm really not conservative enough for that organization either.
Well, if
This
you
was like
work with,
5 years
yeah,
ago.
I only talk to strict following Christians.
Yeah, Marcus,
Whoops.
I think what's so frustrating is
You're
that
getting booted.
it's so frustrating when these other groups won't talk to each other when that's the best way to get a peaceful divorce.
Absolutely.
There's only two ways to separate, peacefully or non-peacefully. And why wouldn't you want to talk to somebody who says, let's talk about we disagree on most things and we want to split up peacefully? I don't get it. It's very frustrating.
Totally agree.
Everybody knows people who went through peaceful divorces and bitter, angry, fighting divorces. And,
Yes.
and the peaceful divorce is way better. Like you call it one party calls up their attorney and says, "You tell her attorney this," and the other one does the other, and it goes really smooth. That's how you do that smoothly. And in the end, like with a divorce, maybe one spouse ends up with the house and the other ends up with something else, and there's a question about the house, and like I don't get it. And in the end, we don't need to agree. Like I don't agree on everything New Hampshire's doing. They're closer to what I like than California, but that's fine. I don't really care. In the end, what I want to do is be friends. Like California can be independent, New Hampshire will be independent, Florida will be independent, Texas will be independent, and we'll all have free trade and get along great. Like that's what I want to do. I don't know why people don't want to do that. That's easy.
Yeah, big hearts to you.
Thank you.
Let me ask you though, Keith, is there a map on this New California website? Do they have a map of what they propose for New California? I think because there's this famous map they have around. I'm just wondering if it's on their website. We could show the audience.
I'll look if you want to chat for me. Like I said, I only looked at the landing page and then the about. That's as far as I got.
If they got it,
yeah,
let me see if I can pull it up.
Want me to? I can drop off here.
No, see if you can just navigate it to that.
Here's navigate. We'll look in real time. You can talk while I'm poking around. If you
okay. He is looking for the map. Let me show you what I found. Okay, I'm going to go to this real quick, guys.
You want me to stop? Or you can.
No, keep going.
Okay.
So this is the New California map that a lot of people have seen. So the blue is New California and the gold is liberal California. So as you can see, it's the Bay Area, wine country goes out to Sacramento, but then it pretty much sticks strictly to the coast, all the way down to Los Angeles. And it does not include Orange County and San Diego. So this is the map they have. I was wondering if that was on their website. Because what I'd like to show is that their boundary line is off. That was the next thing I wanted to have a discussion about. And here's some statistics I'm going to show you guys. So there's a lot of vaulting about how, there's so many conservatives, Republicans came out of California. Yeah, by a hair's breadth. So as I've been saying, California has been turning more liberal every year, and especially in the interior. I was born and raised in the conservative Central Valley. I'm 45 years old. I've been here 45 years. I moved back. I've seen how it changes. Every year there's these people called Latinos, who I'm part, and they move into the area or have more children than non-Latinos, and they typically vote liberal. So the demographic profile for the last 40 years has been going more liberal. And when we look at elections from 2008 to 2018, we can see the climate only getting more liberal. I remember living in Fresno during this thing called the Iraq War. Everybody was for the Iraq War. I was not. And boy, was I yelled at and screamed at and treated like garbage. Interesting thing is that 10 years afterwards, whenever there was a new war, I was part of the group yelling and screaming at the other people who were now quiet. I literally saw the 10-year period where it went from dominant conservative to dominant liberal. And you could literally see the change in dinner conversations and restaurant meetings. A lot of conservatives don't want to acknowledge that. They want to pretend things are still like they were in the 1990s, just like when Orange County and San Diego were conservative. Unfortunately for them, the last 5 elections, Orange County and San Diego have voted hardcore liberal. Yet when you talk to people on Fox News or Breitbart or at New California, they seem to not want to acknowledge the last 5 elections. Let me show you something real quick and ask you guys your opinion on this. One second here. Cancel. Present. Give me 1 second to pull this up. Okay. Window. There we go. Can you guys see these maps?
Yep.
Okay.
It's coming up, I think. Now I can, yes.
All right. So this is what I'm talking about. People like to live in fantasy land. So if you look at the map on the far left, you'll see half blue, half red. There's a 2008 and then a 2018. The 2008 with those dashed lines is the original Republican boundary in 2008. The 2018 and the red line is showing how Republican boundaries have receded in the Central Valley, Northern Central Valley, and the coast and Southern California. That's from 2008 to 2018, dashed lines to red. Then we can fast forward and look at the this last election, 2022. I got that wrong. It's not 2020, it's 2022. And the next 3 maps to your right are all from the 2022 election. Ignore the 2020 marker. And what you can see is there's San Diego and Orange County, all blue. And then when we look at the area right behind Los Angeles, it turned conservative by 2.3%. And the area just north of LA, it turned conservative by 3.3%. And when we look at the Central Valley, this is my favorite. They're going, oh, Central Valley, hardcore conservative. No, guys, let's actually look at the numbers. That's not what the numbers are showing. That is a 50.2% for that gigantic pink section of the Central Valley. That means they won by 0.2%. 0.2% is what made it conservative. And then if you look at the red blob underneath that pink one, that's 51.7%. 1.7%. So when we look at this map and you go to this middle map that's just red and blue and only has the year 2020 on it, it's directly to the right of the map with the numbers 50.2, 51.7, 53.3, and 52.3. And what you can see is that the map in 2022 almost matches the map from 2008. If we take those conservative areas that barely voted conservative and we match them to the demographic trend of the last 15 years, well, that shows Sacramento, San Joaquin, the entire Central Valley, all the way down, half of Bakersfield, all of Los Angeles, all of Orange County, all of San Diego, and parts of the Inland Empire are liberal. And yet that's not shown in the new California map. How does that seem accurate? It's a question for you guys.
I don't know. I don't know the data. My understanding is, as far as the shift in voter trends, I don't know the details or the map lines, but that, the LA, the San Francisco, Sacramento areas are growing, and perhaps it's growing with the population increase too. Probably, I don't know. It's probably a factor, because the denser population areas do vote Democrat. That's true.
Yeah.
In pretty much every state. I mean, it's true in all the cities in Florida.
Yeah.
If you look at the
Fresno
Florida
City.
voting, Florida's the same. I won't point up any maps, but Florida looks like that too, except for the areas that are blue or small and centered around Miami, Orlando, Fort Myers, West Palm Beach, Like that's true in Florida, but Florida's pretty big. I'm nowhere near as big as California, but we're some roughly half, I think a little over half the population. The rural parts of Florida look more like this map here. You know, when you get away, and I don't even live in a rural part. I live an hour from the nearest major city, and it's quite red in voting. You know, and that's true of Florida counties. If you look at a map by county of Florida voter trends, the blue areas are tiny, but they almost won DeSantis' first election. Democrats almost won. It was only half a point off because that's where the like half the people live in the small areas.
His
California's
first
got
election.
that bigger.
His first election, not his second election. The second
DeSantis
election,
won
right?
first. That's what I said. Yeah, if I
Yeah.
missed that, DeSantis won the first election by around a 0.5%.
And he
And
won
he
his
was
second
running
election.
against basically a crazy communist, is what I would define him.
Fair enough. Fair. Yeah.
The
right.
second election, I think the candidate was maybe better. I mean, it's not a high bar if you look at his last election, but his second election he won by something like 30%, and part of that was by distancing himself from DeSantis. In my opinion, picking a few what you would probably call liberal values. I don't use those labels much, but he picked out some things. He was okay. A little bit of gun control, red flag laws, some of that.
Yeah.
He picked out a few liberal things, and I just look at that as a recipe to win in D.C. It's probably where he's headed, right? And
Well, then
he just did an election in a state that has significant. My state of Florida has significant, strongly Democrat voter areas in the big cities, in the bigger cities, and there's some big ones. Miami-Dade is huge, not L.A. huge, but it's huge.
yeah.
It's bigger than some states, right? And so they go Democrat. And DeSantis won by 30%, something like that. Like that's astounding.
But that's my point. That's my point. Is so if we were to say Florida's conservative, there'd be a good argument for that, given that DeSantis won by 30%. I understand. You're going to have to give me
Yeah.
some leeway on terminology just for a California audience. If
Okay.
DeSantis is a non-Californian values candidate, is okay.
Oh yeah, yes,
And he
I
went
agree on
from
that.
0.5% to 30%. So it would be fair for us to say, given the election results, that Florida is a place that supports non-California values because we saw that candidate win by 30%. Now let's transport back to California. New California saying the Central Valley's conservative because conservatives won by 0.2% or 2%. See how this is ridiculous? You want to say Florida's not with California values, they got a 30% margin, fine. You're coming back over here to California and you're saying, well, the Central Valley and Orange County, they're not with California values. Why? Oh, because of a 2% difference? That's ridiculous.
Do you think that those quote unquote conservative, the ones that at least self-identify themselves as conservative, would they have gone for DeSantis if they were in Florida? Yes, it's a speculation.
I will say this: California conservatives think they're conservative, travel and meet real conservatives, and then are yelled and screamed at for being a liberal. So, however that translates in Florida is what I would say.
It's like New York Republicans.
Yeah.
Marcus, I would just add, when I look at New California's map, and yes, I'd love to talk to them, why in the world would liberal California want to let go of like 3/4 of the state geographically? What possible incentive would a state legislature ever have to set them loose, creating 2 more Republican senators, et cetera, et cetera? Whereas on the flip side, the Calexit side, I would guess almost every red state would love to get rid of California.
Exactly.
So to me, it's actually easier. The people who wouldn't want to get rid of California are the people in power in California, Newsom, Pelosi, et cetera, et cetera. But the country would love to get rid of you, would flip every presidential election from now on to get rid of you. I mean, it's actually an easier way to go.
Not every. I would just comment. I lived in New Jersey for a lot of my life. I think New Jersey might want to leave with California. if they
But
could.
people would be happy to see them go. Think what that would
That's
do for the
yeah.
electoral. The electoral college would flip totally just in one quick step.
That's
Oh,
why we did the show. We wanted to let
yeah.
people who don't have California values, that's me trying to find a workaway term, that for the first time ever, you guys can vote us out. I mean, Calexit got big in 2016. Trump was there, but the House was still controlled by liberals. The House is now Republican. The Senate's tied Republican.
Marcus, with all due respect, most of the Republicans are a high percentage of rhinos, Mitt Romney style. So I don't think they would want to vote you out. But I think if every state legislature had a chance to get rid of you, that I could see happening.
My view is what would happen is the Lincoln Republicans would take over, and they would look at California as a positive cash flow, just like South Carolina was in the 1860s, and say, no way, we're going to send the Air Force to bomb Sacramento if you try to leave. I mean, that's what President Lincoln would do, right?
But how?
They wouldn't lose the money because California is a positive net. I don't know what the numbers are, but California has been positive for a long time. More money goes to the federal government than back to California.
Right, but the Republican Party doesn't officially recognize that, and 2 years ago literally said the exact opposite with every elected official in Congress. So I hear you on the Lincoln Republicans, but at some point to do that, what they're going to have to say is, we, the Republicans, lied to you for the last 50 years. Turns out that communist-run, backward state California is run better than our conservative states, calls into question all of our conservative ideology we've told you for the last 3 decades. It's political suicide to do what you're saying. They'd have to say they were wrong about everything. And I can tell you 2 years ago, they literally went on TV and go, California is a welfare queen state. Everyone in the Republican Party agrees. So they're going to have to commit political suicide to do what you're saying.
And that's true with the current mainstream Republican Party.
Great.
But it isn't all of them. So I think
Sure.
somebody like, say, Thomas Massey could stand up and just say that.
Sure,
he probably would. Rand Paul, Mike Lee. There are a few in there. There are a handful. I've already run out of the list, but I know there's a couple more off the top of my head out of the,
but they're in control.
25 of them. Yeah, the people that would say that are not in control and can't be in control of the current Republican mainstream political party or the Democrat political party. They're the same problem. I don't actually distinguish all that much between the two in D.C.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the Republicans who are in Congress don't like us. They have control of the House. They're tied in the Senate. And 26 state governors are Republican. And I believe 23 states or 24 are Republican trifectas. Many people have said that you only need a simple majority vote in Congress, like 51, maybe 52%, in order to legally vote California out. We're looking at Republicans having that threshold at the state, House, and Senate level for the first time ever since the idea of Calexit got big, which is why we wanted to be seen as talking to people who don't share our values.
I think if the total annual money to DC from California is like $5 more than the money that goes back, it would never win. They want the money. And they also have a lot of military. How do you, that's going off a little bit.
But
the military bases are a big problem in California because it's a significant military presence.
We're asking for permission. So assuming we ask for a vote and we got the vote, how does the Republican Party, who has said for the last 40 years since Reagan and built their whole identity up on a particular understanding of economics, suddenly then say, boy, we had it wrong. And you know how we picked on California? Actually, they had it right the whole time. And for the last 3 to 4 decades, we absolutely lied to you about our basic philosophy. Agree with us now, but still vote for us and believe in our leadership going forward. I mean, how do you commit political suicide, say everything you said was a lie, and then keep your voting base intact going forward? How does the Republican Party do that?
I don't think it won't. Based on all history, first off, they're not going to admit any serious error in anything.
Well, then they can't stop us leaving.
Well, would they do what Lincoln? What if I contradict? Oh, yeah, explain, because I didn't know.
Well, if the Republicans are going to say, hey, we'll never let you go because of the money, but then they said California doesn't manage money, and then you said they would never contradict themselves, then that means they can't contradict themselves.
Oh, they
That
they
means they're gonna
con
have to stick.
they would never admit they were wrong. They contradict themselves every time you turn the
Sure,
news on.
sure. But they couldn't commit political suicide. So they're not going to be able to come out and say California had it right this whole time and we had it wrong. In which case,
Most won't. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
not. I'm still trying to understand what you mean when you say Republicans, but most Republicans wouldn't, because I'm an individualist ethics wise, morally. So
sure,
like, there's no such thing as the Republicans making a decision. That doesn't exist. There's the Republican Party platform, the mainstream DC Republican Party platform. That's why I say it that way.
sure.
Maybe a lame duck Republican president could sort of admit that in jest, smiling on his last day in office, of his second term, and he has no further political ambitions. Like, there's
Good,
an exception, and
good,
that's one. I'm talking about one guy. The party is not going to put that in the platform.
good. Well, we are winding down. Keith, I want to turn it over to you. How can people find you? What would you like people to remember the message that you wanted to say today?
My
And what references do you have you want people to know?
Okay, to follow me, watch Rebel Civics on Unsafe Space. Just search for the website is unsafespace.com. The YouTube channel is Unsafe Space. My show is called Rebel Civics. It's one of half a dozen shows on there. I also write articles on Uncovered DC. I could send you some links to the last one. Oh, there we go. This Fighting Tyrants with Lisa Hanson is my show from last week. You just had that up. So if you go there, click that one, you're in my last show. Um, this is a great liberty-minded. This is Lisa Hanson. She's an example of somebody fighting all the way to the state level against tyranny. And
Look at that intro.
a fancy intro.
Woo!
I didn't make that. We have a producer. I didn't make that. She's good. Wait to hear the music.
Nice job.
Music's nice, and I like short intros. It's like 5 seconds long.
Rebel Civics,
Yeah.
37.7 thousand
And this is
subscribers.
I have a couple different hats. I live in Florida, and I don't normally show this, but I don't go outside without a hat on. So I'm known as the hat guy locally.
Well, you look good.
So I wear this. Yeah, and I'm also a musician, part time, and I write. Anyway, as far as where to find me, that's a good place to start. I'm at Bassett Keith on Twitter. Somebody else already got the reverse when I joined. I have basically the same persona on Twitter as I just said.
There he is.
I'm an unanonymous fact checker. I always say my name. My public presence is with my name. I'm not afraid to do that. And one more thing I'll point out, if you saw that show with Lisa Hanson, I have done laundry since then, but this is one of my favorite shirts. So my girlfriend just got it for me. So
I just love the fact that
I
you
don't
live in
know
the
if
Milky Way galaxy with the rest of
live in,
us.
yeah, the Milky Way. Yeah, I'm Soul 3.
I'm Soul 5, so
Soul 5. Anyway, yeah, that's where to follow me. My closing point, I think, to summarize, I'll just say that I believe in the Declaration of Independence from a Jeffersonian point of view. I believe I would have been on the side of the people who founded the United States in 1776, not on the side of the king. I think the same thing about California for the same reason. If California decides to leave, it's the same as Virginia seceding from the King of England, 1776. May, by the way, they didn't wait till June. So that's where I'm coming from. All I want to do is live peacefully. I'm 100% into individualist ethics and morals. This is a decision for the people of California, just as it is a decision for the people of New Hampshire and Texas and Florida and anywhere else. I moved to Florida from New Jersey on purpose. Most of my career was in New Jersey. I've spent a lot of time in California, by the way, but mostly in San Diego for work.
Hey.
And I'll also point out, when you say no one in California, the guy who founded and runs Unsafe Space lives in California, by the way. So there's at least one. There is at least one.
I mean,
who knows I'm not
okay, but if we're going to do that, Sean Hannity,
no, I'm trying to close.
Limbaugh, Breitbart, all got started in California.
Oh, I don't watch any of those guys. So
I'm just saying,
I don't watch
conservatives got started in California.
that's why groupthink is dangerous. So I just wanted to end with just saying that that's where I'm at. I've given up on this relationship here. I worked for years. I've been major part of congressional campaigns for U.S. Congress. I gave up on all that. Now I'm down to the point where I think sheriff, school board, probably governor are really important elections. If it's raining, I may not, because I mostly ride a scooter in Florida. Like, depending on who the candidates are for president next time, if it's raining, I might not bother. I don't know how much it matters at this point. We got to just end this peacefully. And I would love to be sitting the next show with you next year, sitting across the table, and we're negotiating our free trade agreement.
Hey, and I'm looking forward to the show in the future on Tom Woods' book. I will be there on your show.
Oh, yes.
Looking forward to that. Tom Woods, I love your idea of a book club. Tom Woods, National Divorce. Definitely going to be there.
Yeah, Tom Woods. I started reading. It's a short book. It's a free ebook. You'll get Tom Woods emails for signing up to it, but it's a free PDF download. I'm about halfway through it, and I've been following Tom Woods for years, so I already know what he thinks on that. But our book club, it's just a few people who have read it. And Marcus, you're already invited. Stephen, if you want to come, you're definitely invited. We do it on StreamYards, which is limited to 10. We typically like half a dozen max. And the format of book club is a half an hour presentation on the book, roughly, by the advocate. This one's going to be me. So I'm going to do a half an hour solo presentation, maybe 20 minutes is a short one. And then we it's a 2-hour show, and the rest of it is discussion between what I'm the host, so I would define it as interesting people who have read the book and have a lot of thoughts about it. They're not just saying off the top of their head. This is not an old ladies book club by any means. It's a show on Unsafe Space called Book Club. We do it once a month. I'm the host and advocate for the next one. It's on January 8th. Hope people watch it and chat and I'm thrilled that you're going. That's awesome.
January 8th, 2023, 9 a.m. Pacific, National Divorce, the Peaceful Solution to Irreconcilable Differences by Tom Woods. There's the book by Tom Woods. You can check it out at the unsafespace.com/book club/. There it is. Thank you so much, Keith. I want to go to the rabbi now. Rabbi, last comments. I got to get us off the channel. Go be Clark Kent here for a few hours. What would you like your leaving message to be, Rabbi? What do you want people to know?
Nothing more than what I've said, but it's great talking to you as always, and I look forward to peacefully divorcing you, Marcus.
I look forward to peacefully divorcing you too, sir.
We'll be best friends after our divorce.
We will. We will. Okay, thank you all so much. I hope you found this a great conversation. We love talking. We are California progressives. We understand other people aren't, but I think we just showed we love discussing. We believe that, if you're going to have a peaceful national divorce, you got to do this. You can't just be yelling and screaming at each other. We're actually going to have to work together to some degree to not have to live with each other. So hope you saw us trying to put live what we preach. And thank you both for being here and in the spirit of the original founding fathers who agreed to come together and work to somehow form a union that fit for them. I salute both you. We'll take it from there. Thank you all for watching us. And we'll be back with even more fascinating, awesome stuff. And we'll see you soon.